Title: Time Travelers. Chapter 1, The Time Traveler's Dilemma. John sat at his desk, staring at the strange device in front of him. It was a time machine, built from spare parts and sheer determination. He had been working on it for years, convinced that it was his destiny to travel through time and right the wrongs of the past. His best friend, Patrick, was less convinced. "You can't just go mucking about in history," he had said. "Who knows what kind of damage you could do?" But John was determined. He had always felt a pull towards the past, a sense that he was meant for something more. And so, with a deep breath and a prayer, he flipped the switch. There was a loud whirring sound as the machine came to life, and John was momentarily blinded by a bright flash of light. When his vision cleared, he found himself standing in a strange, unfamiliar room. He looked around, trying to get his bearings, when he heard a voice behind him. "Who are you?" John turned to see a beautiful, intelligent young woman, Constance, standing in the doorway, a look of suspicion on her face. "I'm John," he stammered, still trying to process what was happening. "I'm a time traveler. I think I may have ended up in the wrong place." Constance raised an eyebrow. "A time traveler, you say? Well, that certainly explains the strange outfit." John looked down at his clothes, a t-shirt and jeans, and realized that they were out of place in this time period. He had a feeling that this was going to be a very interesting journey. Chapter 2, Love and Laughter Through the Ages. John and Constance stood awkwardly in the strange room, sizing each other up. John couldn't believe his luck. He had always dreamed of finding an intelligent, beautiful woman who shared his love of adventure, and here she was. Constance, for her part, was wary of this strange man who claimed to be from the future. But there was something about him that she found intriguing, and she couldn't help but be drawn to his easy smile and sense of humor. As they got to know each other, John and Constance found that they had a lot in common. They both loved to laugh and have a good time, and they were both up for any adventure that came their way. Before long, they were inseparable. They traveled through time together, experiencing all the joys and heartbreaks of history. And through it all, their love and laughter sustained them. As they journeyed through the ages, John and Constance faced many challenges and dangers. But they always stuck together, supporting each other through thick and thin. They knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together. Chapter 3, The Perils of Paradox. John and Constance had been traveling through time for months, and they had seen some amazing sights and experienced some incredible adventures. But they had also encountered some unexpected dangers. One of the biggest challenges they faced was the risk of creating a paradox, changing the past in a way that could have unintended consequences in the present. It was a risk that John took seriously, but he also knew that sometimes he had to take a chance in order to make things right. As they journeyed through the ages, they encountered many difficult situations that tested their resolve. They had to use all of their wits and resourcefulness to find a way out of each predicament. But no matter how difficult things got, John and Constance always managed to find a way to make things right. They were a team, and they knew that they could always count on each other. As they traveled through time, John and Constance learned that the perils of paradox were always lurking in the shadows. But they also learned that with a little luck and a lot of love, they could overcome any obstacle. Chapter 4, Fate or Free Will. John and Constance had been traveling through time for so long that they had begun to wonder if their journey was guided by fate or if they had the power to shape their own destiny. They had encountered so many strange and unexpected events on their travels that it seemed as if the universe was trying to lead them down a certain path. But at the same time, they had made so many choices and taken so many risks that it felt as if they were in control of their own fate. As they debated this question, they found themselves in the midst of a crisis. They were trapped in a time period where they were not supposed to be, and they had to make a choice that would determine their future. John and Constance knew that they could either accept their fate and let the universe guide them, or they could take control of their own destiny and make their own way. In the end, they made a choice that surprised even themselves. They decided to follow their hearts and trust in their own abilities, no matter what the future held. Chapter 5: The Butterfly Effect Blues. John and Constance had always known that their travels through time could have unintended consequences, but they had never experienced anything quite like the butterfly effect. As they journeyed through the ages, they found that the smallest of actions could have enormous consequences in the future. They saw firsthand how a single butterfly flapping its wings could set off a chain of events that changed the course of history. It was a humbling realization, and it made John and Constance more aware of the power of their choices. They knew that they had to be more careful and thoughtful in the decisions they made, because they never knew how their actions might affect the future. But despite the challenges of the butterfly effect, John and Constance never lost their sense of adventure. They knew that they could never truly predict what the future held, and so they embraced every moment and lived life to the fullest. As they traveled through time, John and Constance learned that the butterfly effect was a constant presence in their lives. But they also learned that with a little bit of luck and a lot of love, they could overcome any challenge that came their way. Chapter 6: Rewriting History. John and Constance had always known that their travels through time could have unintended consequences, but they had never imagined that they would have the power to rewrite history itself. As they journeyed through the ages, they encountered events that seemed to be set in stone, moments that were written in the annals of history and that could not be changed. But they also found that they had the power to alter these events in small ways, to shape the course of history in ways that they never could have imagined. It was a heady realization, and it made John and Constance more aware of the power of their choices. They knew that they had to be careful and thoughtful in the decisions they made, because they never knew how their actions might affect the future. As they traveled through time, John and Constance found themselves facing difficult choices that would determine the course of history. They knew that they could either accept the events of the past or try to rewrite them, and they had to decide which path to take. In the end, they made a choice that would change the course of history forever. They decided to take control of their own destiny and rewrite the past in a way that would create a brighter